The sun was just breaking over Obodo Market, spilling gold across the rows of wooden tables. Traders were already busy, shouting prices, arranging their baskets, calling out to early customers. Smoke from cooking fires drifted through the air, mixing with the smell of fried akara and palm oil. And then she came. Okwudiri. She strode into the market with a basket of tomatoes balanced firmly on her head, her bright headscarf tied high, her wrapper knotted tightly at her waist. Behind her, her daughter Chika staggered under the weight of peppers, trying to keep up with her mother's long strides. Clear way. Okwudiri barked as she marched through the crowded path. If this basket touches your head, you will carry it with me today. The market shifted instantly. People stepped aside, making room for the lioness of Obodo Market. By the time she reached her stall in the center, eyes were already on her. With a heavy thud, she dropped the basket on the table, sending the tomatoes rolling. She clapped her hands loudly 3 times. Fresh tomato. Fresh pepper, she declared, her voice carrying above the noise of the market. If you cook with any other, your stew will cry bitter tears. Some laughed, some shook their heads, but they all came closer. Because no matter her mouth, Okwudiri's goods were always the best. Her first customer was an old woman, thin and bent, her wrapper faded with age. She held out a small handful of coins. My daughter, the old woman said softly, give me tomato of 100. Okwudiri's eyes flashed. 100. Do I look like a beggar? Carry your money and go to Mom and Ketchi's stall. She will give you her rotten ones. The old woman sighed. This is all I have. My grandchildren are waiting to eat. Okwudiri glared for a moment, then scooped a generous heap into a nylon bag and shoved it toward her. Take. Next time come with proper money. But today let them eat. The woman's face brightened. God bless you, Okwudiri. Tell God to bless my tomatoes first, she muttered, already turning to the next customer. Not long after, a young man in a neatly ironed shirt came forward, pointing at a pile. Madam, how much for this heap? 500, Okwudiri replied without blinking. The man laughed. Ah, madam, that is too much. Let me pay 300. Before the words even finished, Okwudiri's palm slammed against the table. The tomatoes bounced as she roared. 300. Are you blind? Look at how fresh they are. Go and buy gutter tomato for that price. My stall is not for fools. The man stammered, embarrassed, and walked away quickly as the crowd laughed at his shame. That is Okwudiri for you, one trader whispered. If you price nonsense, you will go home with insult. But not everyone was laughing. Across from her, Ngozi, a pepper seller whose baskets often spoiled unsold, watched bitterly. Her stall was nearly empty of customers, while Okwudiri's were surrounded. She hissed to the woman beside her. One day, this her mouth will land her in trouble. Let her enjoy for now. The other woman shook her head quickly. Keep your voice low. If she hears you, you'll regret it. But Okwudiri's ears were sharp. She turned instantly, her voice slicing across the row. If you have mouth, say it loud. Or close it and face your rotten pepper. Ngozi froze, her cheeks burning as the surrounding traders burst into laughter. Okwudiri smirked, tossing her scarf back with pride. The lioness had claimed another small victory, but behind the laughter, whispers were spreading. Rivals were watching. Enemies were growing. And Okwudiri, proud as ever, had no idea what storm was building ahead. The market was alive that afternoon. Children ran with trays of puff-puff balanced on their heads, women haggled over fish, and the sharp cry of, buy pepper, buy tomato, filled the air. At the heart of it all sat Okwudiri, her stall brimming with red, shining baskets that caught the sun like rubies. But suddenly, the rhythm of the market shifted. The sound of boots striking the dusty ground echoed from the gate. 4 men in yellow vests marched in, receipt books tucked under their arms, whips dangling carelessly from their hands. The market groaned as one. Traders scrambled, digging for crumpled notes, rushing to pay before trouble reached them. When the men stopped at Okwudiri's stall, she didn't flinch. She folded her arms, her chin raised high. "Madam," one officer barked, "bring your daily ticket fee." Okwudiri burst into a laugh so loud it turned heads. "Ticket? Which ticket? Did your chairman plant these tomatoes for me? Or did he carry basket from farm to market with me? If you want money, go and sell groundnut." The officer's face tightened. "Don't provoke us. If you refuse to pay, we will seize your goods." Her hand shot into a basket of peppers. She held up a fistful of the fiery red pods, her eyes blazing. "Touch even one tomato here, and I will blind you today." Gasps spread through the crowd. Everyone knew the stories, how Okwudiri once sent 2 policemen running. Nobody doubted she would do it again. The younger officer shifted nervously. "Leave this woman, let's move," he muttered. But their leader sneered. "We cannot fear one noisy woman." He stretched a hand toward the nearest basket. Okwudiri's roar shook the air. "I swear on my father's grave, if your hand enters that basket, it will not return whole." The man froze. Behind him, the other officers exchanged uneasy glances. The crowd pressed closer, whispering, laughing, waiting for the explosion. Finally, the leader spat on the ground. "Let's go. This woman is not normal." As they retreated, shame in their steps, the market erupted. Women clapped. Men whistled. Children shouted her name. "Lioness! Lioness!" they cried. Okwudiri stood taller, her chest rising with pride. She dusted her hands as though she had just scattered ordinary flies. "Next time," she shouted after them, "go and find thieves to chase, not traders who sweat for their living." The cheers grew louder. But beneath the laughter, whispers began weaving like threads through the market. "One day she will meet her match," a man said quietly. "Police don't forgive shame," another agreed. "They will return, stronger." Okwudiri ignored the whispers. To her, it was another victory. Trouble never frightened her. Trouble was her crown. Underscore. By the next morning, the story had already flown out of Obodo Market like smoke carried on the wind. It was in the beer parlors where men slapped their tables, laughing until their beer foamed over. "Have you heard? That woman Okwudiri poured pepper into a policeman's eyes," one shouted. "Ah. They say the man screamed like baby goat," another replied, and the whole bar roared with laughter. At the borehole where women fetched water, her name rose with the clatter of buckets. "That woman is trouble," one said, shaking her head. "Trouble? She is hero," another countered. "How many of us can face police and live?" Even the school children whispered her name as they walked, their eyes wide with both fear and admiration. "Lioness of Obodo Market," they called her, half in respect, half in fear. But in the police station, it was not laughter. The 2 beaten officers sat quietly, nursing their wounds. One blinked furiously, his eyes still swollen from pepper burns. The other pressed a hand to his chest, wincing. The DPO paced, fury stamping every step. 2 trained officers, disgraced by one woman selling tomato? His voice thundered across the room. "Do you want the whole town to laugh at the police?" "Ogre," the younger officer stammered. "That woman is not ordinary. She fights like—" "Shut your mouth," the DPO barked. "I don't care if she fights like 100 men. Nobody insults this uniform and goes free. We will return to that market. Next time, we will teach her a lesson she will never forget." The officers saluted weakly, but their eyes betrayed fear. Even they knew, the lioness was not to be taken lightly. Meanwhile, Okwudiri basked in her fame. Her stall was more crowded than ever. Customers came not only for her fresh tomatoes, but to catch a glimpse of the woman who had made policemen run. She boomed with laughter, her voice louder than the bargaining around her. "Did you hear what they said? That I, Okwudiri, blinded police with pepper. Ha! Let them write it in their newspapers. Let the whole world know, I fear no uniform. Some clapped. Others whispered nervously. She is bold, no doubt, one trader muttered. Bold. She is mad, another replied. Mark my words, the police will not rest. But Okwudiri only smiled, arranging her tomatoes into heaps that glistened in the sun. To her, whispers were nothing. Victory was everything. That evening, back in the compound, neighbors gathered in small groups. They spoke in low voices, their eyes darting toward her room. This woman will bring soldiers here one day, one man whispered. Ah, my spirit is not at rest. Police don't forgive shame, a woman added. But when Okwudiri walked in with her basket balanced on her head, their voices died instantly. She smirked at them, her pride like fire. If you are talking about me, talk louder, she snapped. Even your whispers cannot bend me. I am the lioness. Fear me or envy me, it is all the same. She disappeared into her room, her laughter echoing in the courtyard. Chika, sitting on her mat, lowered her head. She admired her mother's strength, yes. But she also knew what her mother didn't. Storms always return. And sometimes, they come stronger than before. Understood. The sun had barely risen when Okwudiri tied her bright headscarf and tightened her wrapper. Her baskets were waiting, full of freshly plucked tomatoes and peppers from the farm. That day, she felt unstoppable. Chika, hurry up, she barked, balancing one basket on her head. We must reach market early. Today, I will finish every tomato and count money till my hands ache. Chika, clutching a smaller basin, nodded quietly. She knew better than to delay her mother when the fire burned in her eyes. At the junction, a young Okada rider slowed down, dust trailing behind him. His motorcycle rattled, patched together with tape and prayer. Market? He asked. Yes, Okwudiri said proudly, adjusting her load. To Obodo Market. Carry us fast, but careful. These tomatoes are not sand. They climbed on, the girl in front, Okwudiri behind, her basket balanced firmly. The engine coughed to life, and they sped off. The road stretched ahead, broken with potholes and stones. Goats scattered across carelessly, cars honked impatiently. The rider pressed the throttle harder, eager to impress. Driver, careful oh! Okwudiri shouted over the roar. If these tomatoes scatter, you will vomit my money today. The boy grinned nervously, weaving past a pothole. But then, a car horn blared from behind, loud and sudden. Startled, the rider swerved too sharply. The wheel struck a stone. In a breath, the motorcycle flipped. Tomatoes burst across the dusty road, rolling like red marbles. The air filled with Chika's scream. She tumbled to the side, her small basin scattering. And Okwudiri, the lioness, the woman who once stood unshaken before policemen, hit the ground with a thud that rattled her bones. For a moment, the world went silent. Dust hung in the air like smoke. The rider staggered up, clutching his bruised arm. Chika scrambled on her knees, her eyes wide with terror. Mama! Mama, stand up! She cried. But Okwudiri did not rise. Her hands clutched her waist, her face twisted with pain. Ah! My waist! My waist is breaking! Crowds rushed from nearby stalls. Women screamed. Men shouted for help. Lioness has fallen. Okwudiri is on the ground. Two men lifted her into a waiting Kiki, Chika clinging to her side. Her once booming voice was now a groan, low and broken. At the hospital, the doctor examined her, his face grim. Madam, he said gently, your waist bone is badly affected. You will walk again, but not without support. For now, you must use crutches. The words landed like thunder. Okwudiri's eyes blazed with disbelief. Crutches. Me. Do I look like cripple? Madam, if you refuse, you will damage yourself more, the doctor replied. It is the only way. Later that evening, when the nurse placed the wooden crutches in her hands, Okwudiri's chest tightened. She tried to rise, but pain shot through her waist, forcing her to lean heavily on them. Her pride cracked. The lioness who once chased police now leaned on sticks like a wounded goat. By nightfall, Obodo Market buzzed with the news. Did you hear? Okwudiri has fallen. They say she is walking with sticks now. The lioness can no longer roar. Some pitied her. Others smiled with satisfaction. But one truth echoed in every whisper: the market had changed. And so had the lioness. Understood. A week later, the compound stirred before dawn as usual. Buckets clattered at the tap, children quarreled over slippers, and women's voices rose in chatter. But all fell silent when the sound of koi, 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 echoed through the courtyard. It was the sound of Okwudiri's new steps, the heavy tap of wooden crutches striking cement. She emerged from her room slowly, leaning hard on the sticks, her face stiff with determination. Chika trailed behind with the baskets. Children peeped from corners, whispering, "Is that really Mama Tomato? She's walking with sticks. Sure, she will still hear you." But Okwudiri heard. Her ears were as sharp as ever. She snapped her head toward them, her eyes blazing. "You better mind yourselves. Crutches or no crutches, I can still flog nonsense out of you." The children scattered like frightened chickens, though a few giggled nervously behind doors. By morning, Chika helped her mother into a kiki. The baskets of tomatoes and peppers were loaded carefully. When they arrived at Obodo Market, the usual buzz of noise softened as traders noticed her arrival. She has come back. See her with sticks. The lioness no longer roars. Okwudiri pretended not to hear. She planted her crutches firmly in the dust, adjusted her wrapper, and sat on her stool with her head high. "Chika," she commanded, pointing with her crutch, "arrange the tomatoes properly. The brightest ones on top. Customers must not see weakness in our goods." Chika obeyed quickly. The stall looked as vibrant as ever, tomatoes gleaming under the sun, peppers glowing like embers. Customers gathered cautiously. Some pitied her, others smirked. One man whispered loudly, "She used to fight everybody. See her now, walking like stick insect." Okwudiri's ears caught it. She swung her head sharply, gripping her crutches. "Say it again, let me use this crutch to reset your teeth," she barked. The man laughed nervously and backed away. Traders chuckled, shaking their heads. Even with crutches, nobody wanted her tongue to slice them open. But whispers spread fast. Her fighting days are over. She cannot chase task force again. Maybe she will calm down now. That afternoon, the yellow vests appeared again, the dreaded market task force. Traders groaned, fumbling for money. When they reached her stall, they paused. Their leader smirked. "Ah, Madam Lioness," he sneered. "How the mighty have fallen. Will you fight us today with your sticks?" The crowd laughed nervously, all eyes on her. Okwudiri gripped her crutches tighter. Her chest burned with rage, but her waist throbbed with pain. She could no longer leap forward as before. "Touch my tomatoes and see," she barked, her voice trembling but fierce. "I may walk with sticks, but my tongue still cuts like knife." The officer chuckled. "We don't fear your tongue, madam. Pay your ticket." Chika stepped forward quickly, her small hands shaking as she held out the money. "Take it," she said softly. The officer collected it with a grin. "Wise girl. Your mother should learn from you." The men walked away laughing. The crowd murmured, "She cannot fight again. Her daughter is the one saving her now." For the first time in years, Okwudiri felt powerless. She leaned on her crutches, her face burning with shame. Traders who once feared her now watched with pity. That evening, as they packed up, Chika touched her mother's hand gently. "Mama, don't be sad. You are still strong. You just fight differently now." Okwudiri looked at her daughter, pride and pain battling in her chest. She whispered hoarsely, "The whole market laughed at me today. Me, Okwudiri, the lioness. Now they see me as cripple." Chika shook her head. "No, Mama. They still see you. But let me help you now. You taught me strength. Now let me use it for us." For the first time, Okwudiri's pride cracked. She lowered her eyes and let the words sink deep. The lioness had not lost her roar, but the cub was learning to carry it. Underscore. The next week, Obodo Market buzzed as usual. Hawkers shouted, drivers cursed, women argued over prices. But at Okwudiri's stall, something new was happening. Chika had begun to step forward. She was the one who fetched the tomatoes from the farm, who carried the heavy baskets the Kiki drivers once feared. She was the one arranging the heaps carefully, ripe fruits on top, soft ones hidden underneath, peppers glistening like rubies. Customers began to notice. "Ah, this girl is learning fast," one woman said. "She is her mother's hand," another replied. But they also noticed a difference. Unlike Okwudiri's fire, Chika's spirit was softer. She had courage, yes, but her words carried calm. When customers priced too low, she didn't lash out with insults. Instead, she smiled and spoke firmly. "Uncle, if you want cheap tomato, you will find them in the gutter. If you want fresh ones, you must pay the price." The crowd chuckled. The customer, embarrassed but charmed, dropped the money. Nearby traders whispered, "She has her mother's courage, but her mouth is sweeter." Yes, people like to buy from her more. That afternoon, a stout man swaggered to the stall. His voice was loud. "How much for this heap?" he demanded. 500, Chika replied. The man laughed harshly. 500? For tomato? I will give you 200. Take it or leave it. In the past, Okwudiri would have slammed her palm on the table and scattered the man's pride into the dust. She shifted on her stool, ready to roar. But Chika raised her hand gently. "Mama, let me answer." She turned to the man, her eyes steady. "Uncle, my mother taught me never to allow anyone cheat us. If you think these tomatoes are ordinary, go and buy elsewhere. But you will not find any fresher than these. Pay the price, or leave them." The crowd murmured in approval. The man hesitated, glanced at the tomatoes, then grumbled. "Fine. I will pay." He dropped the money and walked away. The crowd erupted in laughter. One trader clapped. She has her mother's fire." Another added, "But she adds respect to it. People will love her more." Okwudiri's chest swelled with pride, though a sting of jealousy pricked her heart. 4 years, she had ruled this market with her roar. Now, her cub was stealing the crowd with a quieter kind of strength. That evening, as they packed their baskets, Okwudiri muttered under her breath, "It is still my stall. My name they know. Not hers." But when Chika turned and smiled, saying, "Mama, we sold everything today," Okwudiri's lips softened into a small smile. "Yes," she said slowly. "You did well." And though her heart wrestled with pride and fear, she knew one truth. Obodo Market was beginning to see her daughter as more than a helper. The cub was learning to roar. Underscore. The sun was high, and the heat pressed down on Obodo Market like a heavy blanket. Sweat rolled down faces, and the air was thick with the smell of dried fish, palm oil, and dust. At Okwudiri's stall, the baskets gleamed as usual. Red tomatoes stacked like shining coins, peppers glowing like embers. But the eyes of the market were no longer fixed on Okwudiri. They were watching Chika. "Chika, attend to me," one customer requested. "Please, let the girl sell for me," another added. "Her mother will only insult me." Okwudiri's ears caught it all. She sat on her stool, her crutches propped beside her, her face tight as a drum. Pride swelled in her chest, but so did anger. One woman, bold and careless, said it openly. "This girl is better than her mother. She has fire, but she does not burn people with it." The crowd laughed. Some nodded. The words cut into Okwudiri like a blade. Her grip tightened on her crutch. She wanted to slam it on the ground and shout, "Who built this stall? Who made this name? Is it not me, Okwudiri, the lioness of Obodo Market?" But Chika's calm voice silenced the storm inside her. "Auntie, how many heap do you want?" she asked, smiling as she tied tomatoes into a bag. The customer left happy, blessing Chika. Others followed, choosing her hands over her mother's insults. Traders nearby whispered openly now. Before, it was Okwudiri's stall. But today, it is Chika's. She has her mother's courage, but she adds patience. Customers like that more. The cub is outgrowing the lioness. The words stung sharper than pepper. That evening, as they packed the empty baskets into a kiki, Okwudiri's chest was heavy. The market that once bowed to her alone now bent toward her daughter. In the rattling kiki, Chika turned to her mother, her face glowing. "Mama, did you see? Everyone likes me now. They even say I will be greater than you." The words were innocent, but they pierced deep. Okwudiri forced a smile, hiding the storm behind her eyes. Greater than me? We shall see." But when she turned away, gazing out at the dusty streets, her pride trembled. She had fought drivers, chased policemen, silenced neighbors. She had built a name feared across the market. Now, her own daughter was the one carrying it forward. And the market was watching closely. Underscore. Evening fell over the compound like a tired sigh. Children chased one another barefoot, their laughter echoing off the cracked walls. Women bent over basins, washing clothes as smoke curled from small cooking fires. Men sat on low stools, sipping palm wine and arguing about politics. But when Okwudiri entered with her crutches tapping against the cement, the air shifted. She carried her basket, almost empty now, while Chika balanced the last basin with ease. Neighbors' eyes followed them, not with fear as before, but with something new. Admiration. Not for Okwudiri. For Chika. "See that girl," one woman whispered, her voice carrying. "She is the one keeping the stall alive now." "Yes," another replied. "Her mother taught her, but she is wiser. She doesn't shout like Okwudiri. Customers even prefer her." Okwudiri's ears, sharp as always, caught every word. Her jaw tightened, her pride bristled. She wanted to whirl around and shout, "Without me, she would still be fetching water and sweeping compound. It is my blood she carries." But instead, she marched inside, her crutches echoing hard against the cement. Later, as Chika fetched water from the tap, two children giggled nearby. "Your mama no day roar again," one teased. "It is you people fear now," the other added. Chika lowered her eyes, gripping her bucket tightly. She said nothing, but inside her chest, pride and pain twisted together. That night, as Okwudiri sat on her bed counting money, she muttered, "Chika, the neighbors think you are better than me." Chika paused, her hands still on her homework. "Mama, it is not like that. They only respect me because you taught me." Okwudiri grunted, tying her scarf tighter. "Let them not forget, I am still the lioness." But outside, in the courtyard, the whispers grew louder. The lioness is fading. The cub is rising. One day, Chika will overshadow her mother completely. And though Okwudiri shut her door against the gossip, The words seeped through the cracks like smoke, haunting her pride, testing her heart. The sun rose sharp and unforgiving, spilling gold across Obodo Market. The noise swelled as women called out prices, barrows rattled over stones, and the smell of fried akara drifted through the air. At her stall, Okwudiri sat stiffly, her crutches leaning against the table. Chika arranged the tomatoes neatly, peppers glittering like hot coals in the morning light. Customers gathered, as they always did. But again, their eyes turned to Chika. "Chika, attend to me." "Small madam, how much for this heap?" "Ah," the girl speaks sweetly. She is not like her mother. The laughter stung Okwudiri like whips. Her chest tightened, her pride screamed. She slammed her palm against the wooden table, making the tomatoes bounce. "Are you people blind?" she roared. "Who built this stall? Who made this name? Is it not me, Okwudiri, lioness of Obodo Market?" The crowd fell silent. One young man dared to mutter, "Lioness way day walk with stick no fit roar again." Before anyone could blink, Okwudiri snatched one of her crutches and swung it hard against the ground. The crack echoed through the row. "You!" she barked, pointing the crutch like a spear. "Say it again, and I will break your head open like rotten tomato." The man staggered back, raising his hands. Laughter erupted from some corners, but nervous ones. Nobody wanted to test her fury. Chika rushed forward. "Mama, leave it," she pleaded softly. "It's not worth it." But Okwudiri's eyes blazed. "No. They must know I am still the lioness. Crutches or not, my fire has not died." Customers exchanged uneasy glances. Some admired her courage. Others shook their heads. One woman whispered, "This is pride fighting against shame." Still, they bought her tomatoes. Fear had not vanished completely. But when the sun dipped low and the baskets emptied, whispers floated behind her back. "She still shouts, but it is not the same. The fire is burning, but the wood is weak." Chika is the future. Okwudiri is the past. The lioness had roared again, but her roar no longer echoed as before. The compound was restless that evening. Women squatted by the kitchen fires, stirring their pots of soup. Children chased each other barefoot, their laughter ringing against cracked cement walls. Men gathered in small clusters, sipping barukutu and arguing about politics. But when Okwudiri's crutches tapped across the courtyard, the laughter thinned. Eyes followed her, as always. Only this time, the whispers did not die. "She is not the same woman," one voice murmured. "Her daughter carries her now," another replied. "It is Chika we respect, not her." For once, Okwudiri stopped. She turned, her eyes sharp as a hunter's knife. "You think I cannot hear you?" she snapped. "Say it to my face." The courtyard froze. The tenants shifted uneasily. Then, from the far corner, Ifeoma, the boldest of them, rose to her feet. "Fine, let us say it," she declared, her baby strapped to her back. "You have troubled this compound for years, shouting at children, fighting neighbors, scattering peace. We endured because we feared you. But now," she gestured at the crutches, "now you cannot scatter us again." Gasps filled the air. Okwudiri's chest heaved. "Ifeoma, do you want thunder to strike you here?" "Thunder?" Ifeoma laughed bitterly. "It is only your noise we feared, not thunder. Your daughter is the one who holds you up now. Respect us, Okwudiri. Fear is not respect." The courtyard erupted. Other neighbors added their voices. "Yes. We are tired of your noise. You insulted us for too long. Even police ran from you, but we will not run again." Okwudiri raised her crutch, fury blazing in her eyes. But Chika ran to her side, clutching her arm. "Mama, stop," she pleaded. "Not this fight. Please." The neighbors stared, waiting, testing her. For a long moment, Okwudiri's pride and rage boiled. Her grip on the crutch tightened. The old lioness inside her roared for release. But her waist throbbed, her daughter's trembling hand anchored her, and her voice cracked as she lowered the stick. "You people," she hissed, her voice shaking. "You think I am weak. But remember this, Okwudiri does not beg respect. Whether you fear me or not, I am still the lioness." She turned, hobbling back into her room, her crutches echoing against the cement. The courtyard buzzed with whispers. She is finished. Or maybe, she is finally learning. Fear is dying. But something else is rising. And for the first time in the compound's history, by evening, Okwudiri sat on her stool, her body shaking with anger and shame. But somewhere deep inside, another voice whispered, "You did not roar. Yet they still came. Maybe this is another kind of power." Chika squeezed her mother's hand. "Mama, you were strong today. Not because you shouted, but because you held back." And though Okwudiri would never admit it aloud, her daughter's words sat heavy in her heart. The lioness had roared one last time. But the market was beginning to hear a new sound. Silence. Understood. Weeks passed, and the market learned a new rhythm. At Okwudiri's stall, it was no longer the lioness's roar that drew the crowd, but Chika's soft smile and steady words. "Good morning, Auntie. Here, take this extra pepper for your stew. Uncle, the price is fair. You won't find fresher tomatoes anywhere." Customers began to ask for her directly. "Chika, attend to me," they would say. "Your mother is too harsh." At first, Okwudiri bristled. Her chest tightened every time someone bypassed her for her daughter. She slammed her crutch on the ground more than once, barking. "Do you think this stall grew from her school shoes? I built it with my sweat." But still, customers smiled apologetically and leaned toward Chika. The cub was no longer hiding behind the lioness. She was beginning to roar in her own way. One busy afternoon, a group of women surrounded the stall. They were from a neighboring village and had traveled far to buy for a wedding feast. Their leader pointed at the baskets. "We want 20 heaps," she said. Okwudiri sat up, ready to seize the deal. "Then sit down and bring your money. I will show you what fresh tomato means." But the woman shook her head gently. "No, let your daughter sell to us. She has the patience." The words stung like pepper in Okwudiri's eyes. She opened her mouth to lash out, but Chika touched her hand softly and stepped forward. "Yes, Mama," Chika said respectfully. "I will handle them." For nearly an hour, Chika bargained, laughed, and charmed the women. By the time the deal ended, the women carried their baskets away, praising loudly. "Chika, you are wise beyond your years. Your mother trained you well. You will go far." The stall was nearly empty by evening. It was one of their biggest sales yet. As Chika tied the bundles of cash, Okwudiri sat quietly on her stool, her crutches leaning against her side. For the first time, she did not feel anger. She felt pride. Bitter, reluctant, but real. That night, back in the compound, as Chika carefully folded the day's earnings, Okwudiri whispered, almost to herself, "The cub has grown teeth." Chika looked up, unsure if her mother meant it as a blessing or a warning. Okwudiri met her gaze, her eyes softer than they had been in years. "One day, you will carry this stall fully. And when that day comes, remember, strength is not only in shouting. It is in knowing when to hold back." Chika smiled, her heart swelling. "I will remember, Mama." And though the lioness still clutched her pride, she finally saw her daughter not as a shadow, but as the future. By midday, a woman buying for a burial feast declared, "If you want strength, talk to Mama Tomato. If you want peace, talk to her daughter. Either way, you will not leave empty-handed." The crowd laughed and agreed. For the first time, Okwudiri realized the market was no longer laughing at her or fearing her. They were honoring her. Honoring them both. That evening as they returned home, Chika carried the heavy basket while her mother leaned gently on her crutches. The compound children, who once scattered at Okwudiri's voice, now ran up shyly. "Mama Tomato, good evening," they chorused. Okwudiri blinked in surprise, then gave a short nod. "Good evening." The children giggled and ran off. Chika caught her mother's small smile, the kind she rarely showed. Inside their room, as Chika arranged the money, Okwudiri spoke softly. "Pepper and honey. I thought they mocked us. But maybe they are right." Chika smiled. "We are stronger together, Mama." The lioness said nothing more. But in her silence, she admitted it. The stall now had two rulers, and the market had accepted both. The harmattan winds had begun to sweep through Obodo Market. Dust floated in the air, settling on baskets, on wrappers, on the zinc rooftops. The year was drawing to a close, and with it, the old rhythms of fear and fire were fading too. Okwudiri sat at her stall, her wrapper tied firmly, her crutches resting against the wooden table. Her eyes scanned the crowd, not with suspicion as before, but with calm. For once, she did not feel the urge to roar. Chika, taller now, her shoulders straighter, stood beside her. She arranged tomatoes into neat pyramids, sprinkled bright peppers in between, and smiled warmly at customers. People no longer came timidly. They greeted them with joy. "Good morning, Mama Tomato." "Chika, give me my heap, a beg." "Ah, pepper and honey. My stew will sweet today." The stall buzzed with laughter and chatter. Okwudiri watched her daughter bargain smartly, refusing to be cheated yet never raising her voice. She saw in her not only a daughter but a mirror, her fire, softened and reshaped. By noon, every basket was empty. Their money bag bulged with crumpled notes. Chika wiped sweat from her brow, smiling. "Mama, we sold everything." Okwudiri nodded slowly. "Yes. And soon, it will be you alone they call Mama Tomato." Chika's eyes widened. "No, Mama. This is your stall. Your name. Your blood." But Okwudiri only smiled, her eyes softer than they had ever been. A lioness cannot roar forever. One day, her cub must take the forest. "And you, Chika, you will roar better than I ever did." The words sank into Chika's heart like a blessing. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them back. That evening, as they rode home in the kiki, the compound children ran forward, waving and laughing. Neighbors greeted openly, women calling out, "Mama Tomato, well done. Chika, you are growing strong." And for once, Okwudiri did not bark, did not hiss, did not scatter the peace. She lifted her chin proudly, but her smile was real. Later, in their small room, Chika counted the money carefully, folding it into bundles. Okwudiri lay back on her mat, staring at the ceiling. The memories of her past battles flickered, the quarrels, the police, the insults, the victories. For so long, she had believed strength meant fire. Now she understood. Strength was not only in the roar. Strength was also in the silence that held back the roar. Strength was in the daughter who had inherited her fire but shaped it into something new. Her eyes drifted closed. A faint smile touched her lips as she whispered to herself, "The lioness has not died. She has only learned to rest." Outside, the compound was alive with laughter, not fear. Children played football, women gossiped freely, men whistled old songs. And for the first time in years, Okwudiri felt not feared, not mocked, but loved. The lioness of Obodo Market had found peace. And beside her, the cub was ready to carry the roar into tomorrow.